Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Syndicast. On this episode, we've got Brian Connolly from Hunter's HD Gold. They're the official eyewear of USPSA and Steel Challenge, and anecdotally, I've been seeing their eyewear showing up all over competition shooting, starting with where I saw them first at the PCC and Rimfire Championships. And if you're aware of Hunter's HD Gold, odds are you've met Brian, who's joining us now. How you doing, Brian?
Hey, what's going on?
Gosh, it's been been too long since we've been in the dirt together. It's been over a year at this point.
It has, and I have not been back to where we met in at Lucas Oil Range so far yet this year. That was
I'm pretty time ago. Yeah, I mean, just to be straight, I don't think anybody has.
Well, I went there twice last year, so I'm not missing it.
I logged 21 days in that house last year.
Woo, I never got the pleasure of staying in the house. I had to drive to Warsaw every day. So,
yeah, Lucas, it's an interesting thing. They, I was involved. So last year I was involved with Strategic Match Design and a couple of other companies that were doing major events. And I got into it they wanted me to do media, which translated to, would you also do our prize tables?
Wow.
Yeah, so I did 6 last year. And then, and I learned a ton. It was totally worth the mental exercise. And at the same time, I don't think you'll see me doing that again.
I can understand that. I actually had the joy of walking a prize table for somebody this year when they weren't going to be able to walk it. And I decided that was the first and last time I want to do that as well. So
yeah, I definitely have I want to talk about prizes with you a little bit because you guys have been really gracious, but you also have kind of a spin on that I really like. So then we can talk about it a little bit later in the cast as we get deeper into Hunter's HD Gold specifically. But tell me before we do that a little bit about you. Like, you started out in insurance. Is that what I'm gathering?
Well, I've been in retail management since I was 21.
Okay.
And I am 48 now.
Got it.
And I used to tell everybody I sold everything but insurance back in the day. And then I had a friend of mine who was owned an insurance company, and he says, "Hey, well, go get your license and everything, and try this." He had a practice he was starting up in insurance. I was like, "Well, sure, why not?" So took the exams, 2 of the hardest tests. I still keep those insurance license current today, taking taking the credits every 2 years to keep my license current in the state of Alabama. So I've got a backup plan. If I ever got to go back and sell insurance, I'm not going to lose my license, because I think now they're requiring a lot more to get your license and insurance, everything else. So every couple of years I walk back into a classroom and take 8 hours of credits and fulfill those. But based on how everything is going now, I don't really think I'm going to have to go back down that path anytime soon.
No, you guys are having a great run. And so tell me, like, how do you go from, now you were born and raised in Alabama, right?
Yep, I was born in Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
And in 92, moved up in Birmingham and been in Birmingham area ever since. And, I got, like I said, I went to school and at the university and went in criminal justice and had a path set there for me, but never really finished. Once I got in retail sales, got a call from the local police department that I was going to go work for. And they told me my starting salary, I think back then, was going to be $16,500.
Nice.
And at that time in retail management, as a young manager at 21 years old, I'd made, I think, $30-something thousand. So I made a commitment then, or decision then, saying, well, I'm not going to turn around and look back. I can make this much more money and not get shot at. And then that's kind of the path I chose ever since.
Yeah, I got that. And I would imagine there's more than one human being that made that calculation in their lifetime between law enforcement.
It's one of those things that I've never been in a situation where I haven't had gainful employment based on being in that kind of environment. Had to change jobs a lot, because in retail management, the way you got a pay raise was getting recruited by somebody else or changing in a career path to sell something different. So lots of training through the years, being able to go from different positions. I've managed and sold everything from, video concepts back where it got started in 92, selling big screens and camcorders. And after 5 years, that company closed up. They were owned by Tandy Corporation and went to go manage a Radio Shack. And then I didn't like selling the parts that made the big screens when I was selling the big screens. So I got out of that and went to another type of sales, but I've managed everything from Targets to Best Buys to being in the wireless industry for multiple years. And then I was, of course, like we just talked about, selling insurance with an insurance agency. And then my current wife's ex-husband at the time, called me about wanting to do their marketing and stuff for the lab that I work for now.
Yeah.
And that was kind of an interesting blend, but we had a great working relationship, and started doing marketing in the lab business. So I went from selling retail to talking directly to ophthalmologists and optometrists about how to improve their sales in their field, and quote unquote selling the accessories for my retail world, because in the optical world, the accessories are, ARs, photochromics, colors, tints, anything, something besides just the normal thing that insurance is going to cover.
Sure.
And I did that for 4 years, and then got involved with, I'm all over the place, but then I got involved with two other friends one was in the optical industry, and one was an older gentleman that I've known forever, for 15 years now, that was in the wireless industry. And we went together and bought some hunting property.
Yeah.
And that was back in 2013, a place called Triple Forks Hunting. We do executive hunts and stuff like that. So I had all these tools at the lab, and I wanted to make myself a hunting lens, and wanted to, something to enhance my hunting, for what I was doing, because I had prescription eyewear, and I kind of had all the fun toys to play with at the lab to design something. And that's kind of, the beginnings of where I've got, where I am now.
Yeah, so. Really cool. So that's Optical Prescription Lab, which is the lab, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Triple Forks Hunting LLC was something you created, is it 2013, it looks like?
Yep, that's correct. And that's where we basically, we didn't just want anybody with a hunting license and, a gun to come hunt. We wanted to open it up to corporations for a place for them to bring their employees and really, have a place to, bond and team build based on the, to build, relationships with either their clients or their employees. And
really cool.
It works extremely well. One of my business partners is still running that more. I'm not running it as much based on where Hunter's HD Gold is at now. So Lane has really stepped up and made a difference for that, keeping it going on the side.
Really cool. Well, I'm always curious about something. So I mean, at this point, whether you intended to or not, you're heavily involved in the firearms industry. And so, while you're not selling guns, you're definitely directly marketing to that group with both the hunting and the Hunter's HD Gold. So did you grow up with guns? How did you follow all this?
My dad had guns.
Yeah.
And I remember he only brought them out usually when we traveled. It was kind of the time he put the gun in the, in the trunk, and we traveled to Texas to see his family and my mom's family in the Fort Worth, Dallas area. And that's how I remember about growing up with the guns. I don't really have the history of out shooting guns myself. I just remember my dad would always take guns out there and trade with some relatives and stuff like that. October of 2011, my wife's father passed away, and we stayed with him the last 2 years of his life, helping him. He died of cancer, and he was in a situation where that's where I inherited, 7 guns that he wanted me to have. And these guns, my wife's grandfather was the mayor of Bessemer, Alabama for 18 years. So he had these guns, a lot of shotguns, and all these Remington 1100s that were back from the 50s and 60s, and had all these pictures with local celebrities, we'll call it, the Bear Bryants and stuff like that, of shooting these guns and out shooting together and doing a bunch of dove hunting and stuff. So there's a lot of history with these guns that I inherited, and that's kind of what got everything started, because every time I look at Sherry and we're talking or something, I'm always like, you realize your father, started this back in 2011. We just had no idea where it was going to go.
Yes.
So that kind of got me involved in, collecting guns and getting started there in 2011. And that's what caused me to, back during the previous presidency, where I was wanting to say, anyway, we need to buy some property and, have a place to shoot this and train and, hunt and, with everything else that was being, jeopardized back in the 2000, late 2000 years of that. And it's kind of where everything got started. And then when I actually had a gentleman when we were building the lake at Triple Forks Hunting, and had a gentleman working a bulldozer that was moving dirt for the lake, and he comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I need you to get me some more of this wasp spray. It looks like it's in Pelham, Alabama." And I was like going, "Huh, it's in my backyard. Sure, I'll go look into it."
Yeah.
And so I took this can. It was a can of rainbow wasp spray. So I took it to the building and had to be buzzed in. They weren't open to the public. And I walked in the door and I was like, "Well, hey, I want to buy this wasp spray." And they're like, "Well, we really don't sell to the public, but hold on one second." And they went back in the back, and the gentleman came out, and he was like, "Where'd you hear about this?" And I was just a guy on a bulldozer, and Millport, Alabama handed it to me and said, "Come get some." He goes, "Well, we really don't sell to the public, but however, here's a place you can go online to buy some, and so forth." And I left my business card with Triple Forks Hunting, and he gave me his. And I went upon my merry way, went online and ordered some. And then about a week later, if not that long, one of the owners of Rainbow Technologies, Larry Joe Steely Jr., called me up and says, "Hey, I see that you have a hunting camp and so forth, and tell me about that." Went through that process, and he actually booked a hunt with his brother and one of his employees to come out there during hunting season. And then we kind of became, friends. Went out there, did the hunt together in the early late fall season when the hunting season was starting. And he saw the lenses there that I had used. I'd made up some demo stuff there. I was wanting to test it with people that were coming to hunt. I'd already was testing the lens with some game wardens and stuff like that, just trying to get their feedback and stuff, because I made a lens that, allowed me to see a lot earlier in the mornings to hunt. And in the state of Alabama, hunting hours are defined 30 minutes before sunrise and 30 minutes after sunset. And these were actually bringing in enough light to be able to hunt during those hours when it's pretty dark. So having the hunting property, I'd already made friends with a bunch of the game wardens because I wanted them to be, the place is 2 hours from where I live. So I always wanted them around the property to be able to, keep watch of what was going on, and gave them full rights to come out there anytime they wanted to they saw something suspicious, come hang out at the place and, use it as kind of your home base. So through that, met Larry, and Larry came out there and did a hunt, and he got me involved in, he goes, "You ever do any competitive shooting or anything?" And I was like, "No." And he was doing cowboy action shooting at the time.
Yeah.
Single action shooting society, SAS. And he got me involved in that. And I was pretty intrigued because I was, like I said, I was collecting guns. It looked like this was going to give me another reason to buy some more guns, which I was all about. So got my cowboy outfits together, and
Nice.
got me an 1873 Navy Arms Winchester that had been redone, and a couple of Ruger Vaqueros that we'd sent off to have tricked out, and a Stoeger double barrel, shotgun. And I was shooting cowboy action shooting, which was a blast. And I'd had these lenses I'd made there and using them, and a couple of locals there were like, "What are you wearing? That's awesome." And made Larry Joe some, of course, and he was all about it. And Larry Joe Steely, if you don't recognize that name, he's the gentleman that now owns Steel Target Paint.
Oh.
And that's the correlation there. And this is before Steel Target Paint was even created.
Yes.
So at this time, he was telling me, I'm thinking about making a paint for these steel targets. He saw a need there. And the locals were all kind of intrigued about what I'd done with these lenses. He goes, "I really think you got something here. You got to see what you can do with it." And I started getting more intrigued because I was kind of, thought about going down the hunting road. And I was doing I didn't do any shows, but I was visiting a couple of, deer expos and stuff like that, just trying to see what was going on, and made a couple of visits to SHOT Show with some of my friends at Steyr Arms. They're here in Bessemer, Alabama, about 20 minutes away, and became good friends with them. So I was, intrigued in what was really happening around the lens and what kind of feedback I was going to get. So I went to SHOT Show a couple of years before it was anything, just to see if anybody was offering something I'd already created in the lab, to make sure I wasn't walking into something that was already there. So why create something that somebody else is already putting out there, and there's already a market that's already been exposed to it. Come to find out, there was nobody that was putting a Trivex lens together with a photochromic combination. And so I was even more intrigued to see where this would, really go. And then I guess about a year later, Larry Joe Steely Jr. was running, had his thing going with steel target paint. And he had called me up and says, I think I found a way for us to get into competitive shooting. I was like, what do you mean? Everybody, SAS already knows about it. Locally, you're talking about something that goes, no, I'm thinking something bigger, even with a thing called Steel Challenge. He goes, he had met a competitive shooter named Steve Foster out of Georgia and was thinking about putting a team together. And he asked me if I wanted to sponsor the team. I was like, well, sure. What is that? What do you want to do? He goes, well, I just figured we put them all in Hunter's HD Gold. Well, I'll put a jersey together and we'll get your, logo on the jersey. And I said, sure, why not? Sounds great. And that's kind of how I got involved with Steel Challenge.
Really cool. And wow. Oh my goodness.
An interesting, way to get into it, because I had no idea what I was doing. And I was, I knew what I was doing on the lens side, but I had no idea what the competitive shooters of Steel Challenge was. I knew about cowboy shooting because I've been doing that for about 6 or 8 months, once or twice a weekend, and having a lot of fun with that. I didn't really think it was going to go much further, and I was focused on the hunting side. So we were already testing a lot of products at Triple Forks Hunting. I was teamed up with Pradco. They're here in Birmingham as well, and they own Moultrie, Summit, Tree Stands, Cold Blue, Night and Hell Game Calls, and a lot of other brands. Yeah. And I'd come pretty close with them and still close with them today, testing their products out in the field. And had a lot of those guys, helping me do some testing with Hunter's HD Gold and having some of their avenues on the hunting side, with trying to get Hunter's HD Gold to see what kind of way I could break into the industry and kind of see what that looked like with my lenses. But meeting Steve Foster kind of changed that entire direction. I kind of told the hunters, I'll be back with you later. This is something that's really happening now. And Steve Foster had actually told me that he was always finished in second and third. And once he got a hold of the Hunter's HD Gold, he was actually finishing first. That's the only thing he changed. Found that kind of, intriguing, because I didn't realize, what I was really opening up to the competitive shooters to find them a shooting advantage. I knew we had one in cowboy action shooting, but the targets are a lot closer and there's not much distance involved. It was just about more of transitioning and being able to work a lever action and reloading your shotgun shells fast.
Regardless of the platform, regardless of the game, I think Jerry Miculek says it best. It's like, you can see it fast, you can shoot it fast.
Yep. And that's what when we were thinking about slogans, we were going through that with my wife, and we were going back and forth, because one of the things she said is you can only shoot as fast as you can see. And
yeah, that's what it is. I
was wanting to put something together with the lenses being able to change, and she actually came up with a slogan as well. They change so you don't have to. So that was kind of, that kind of told a story about, the lens without, getting too much into it, just because I have a lot of people that still walk up to the tent today when I travel and they go, what is this? They changed, they don't have to, and it just opens up the story. So it's working real well.
That's really good. Okay, this is like, you just opened up like about 1,000 conversations. Okay, good. So first thing I want to say is I've been in the firearms industry now for, let's say I've been really engaged as a consumer for about 7 or 8 years now, and I've been engaged as a service provider for, let's say, 5 or 6 of those years. And I can't tell you how many people stumble into their careers. Like, I just was looking for something for myself that worked better. Atlas Gunworks, great example of that. Guy just wanted a gun that worked better for himself, made a gun, worked great, kept making them. I hear this over and over, and it's really interesting to me how few people in the modern games are, on the gaming side of things, started with hunting and you and I both grew up, like, I didn't grow up around guns. It didn't sound like you had them in the house. Dad had them, but no, it wasn't like you grew up shooting every weekend or you lived on the farm shooting all the time. And just how many people have who have really advanced the sport significantly come from like a whole different world of firearms use. It's all post 18, it's fascinating. But let's do this. So when you were starting to develop this lens, so let's just explain this to those who, I'll give the simpleton version. So for those of you who aren't watching this on video, or you've never seen a Hunter's HD Gold lens, it is essentially a very bright yellow lens, not unlike what you've seen in inexpensive lenses. Like if you just saw somebody walking by, you find that like you buy the 3-pack, there's the smoke, there's the red, and there's the yellow, and you throw away the yellow and you take the smoke and the red with you out to the, and so it looks kind of like that, but then you put them on, and instead of it just making everything like super vivid and uncomfortable, because when I wear yellow lenses, I'm just like, it's just like I'm being assaulted by light. I don't like it. You put these on and it takes a second, especially if you haven't worn them before. And then you sort of like, I don't know, you like relax into this just sort of flow of light into your eyes all day. And what you don't notice is they're photochromatic. So they're adjusting in the amount of light they're letting in based on the conditions outside, which is something like, if you told me it's photochromatic, I immediately would be thinking of my brother's like 1978, glasses that he wore that were just not cool by even 1978 standards.
Exactly.
But as a shooter and as a competitor outside all day long in all kinds of different light, light's always changing, and you're either switching lenses all day long, or you could wear these and they give you that all day sense. And I use them all the time. I mix them with a couple of other things, and I want to talk about that with you in a second, because I've recently got into this tactical games thing, and I think I need a specific set of frame for that. I'll talk to you about that maybe offline. But
cool.
Because you gave me a set of the Archers right away the day that we were out there, and I think that was PCC Championships.
It was a PCC World Championship. Gave you a pair of Archers to wear around.
Yeah, and I wore them.
Demo days there.
Oh man, I wore them all. I wore them for the 2 days of the event. And see, for me, the biggest issue I have is I'm always transitioning back and forth between shooting the guns and dealing with cameras and electronics and all that kind of stuff. So, like, I'm changing things now. My eyes have gotten a little showing off my, readers right now, but my eyes in the last couple of years have significantly diminished in quality. But I'm always switching back and forth between glasses, between what I'm shooting with, what I'm working with. Polarized glasses make my screen look like crap. There's all, whatever. You go back and forth. So like eyewear has just become kind of a thing for me. I've always got 3 or 4 pairs. When I'm going to shoot and do cameras, I always just wear the Hunter's HD Gold now, because they just work perfectly for both. And the only negative is occasionally I've got to flip them up so that I can make sure my color balance is correct before I start filming something. I have on a couple of occasions gotten an undersaturated shot because my lenses were exaggerating the color, so much the color richness. So, and I use them all the time. You've got a couple of friends here up in town now, like Dustin Sanchez is one who's wearing your lens now. And they're really starting.
We made him a pair of custom pair as well.
Yeah, I know. We're us 3 gunners are a bunch of prima donnas. We're like, I can't possibly wear.
There's a lot of vanity in shooting sports, I found out. And I think I learned that the hard way at the PCC World Championship, when everybody goes, "Oh, alrighty." Yeah.
Well, look, you and I had a pretty cool interview. If you go to the Hawkeye Ordnance YouTube channel, there's an interview of the two of us that I did at the PCC Rimfire. We met at PCC, but we did that one at Rimfire. And I had some experience then with your lens, and that's when you made me the ones in the Oakleys. I was like, I love these lenses. I don't like the frames. Okay, whatever. Yep. So, and we've had this conversation. We don't need to rehash this. But so you made me a set of Oakleys. I took a set out of my car and sent them with you, and you made a set of Oakleys for me with these lenses. And those are the ones I wear. I literally wear them all the time. I wear them driving around. I wear them. They're kind of my constant rotation. If I'm wearing black boots, I'm wearing my Hunter's HD Gold. If I'm wearing brown boots, I'm probably still wearing my Oakleys. But whatever. It is what it is. So that's kind of like I'm a pretty simple guy. It's like my glasses go with my boots. And then I wear them, all summer. I am also setting up matches. And then I shoot the match, and they work all day for all of that. And we run right up until 9 o'clock here in Minnesota, which this time of year, we're getting to the point where it's almost dark, and I'm not switching to clears, which is just huge. I wouldn't tell you if there's an advantage per se, in my shooting, but I'm not at the level where especially anymore, where like I would notice such a subtle difference, right? I'm not
Right.
I'm not 100th out of first place, and so, but I will say that just from a personal comfort level, they're fantastic. And then I wear them all the way home in the car because I have like a blue light thing. It's like I try to get I'm really conscious of my sleep, and they block some of the blue light from my car all the way home, but I can still see and drive, and they block glare. So they just kind of cover me from the moment I leave the house till the moment I come home. And the glass is just managing that. So that's kind of like the layman's term of what they're doing. But I'm curious from your standpoint, like what was the design philosophy? Like, I mean, I know you tried a bunch of different things, but what did you finally end up with?
Well, there was a lens that came out how many years ago? Back in the late, I guess, early 2000s, and then went through the probably 2010 or 11. And that was a company that had put out a actual shooting and hunting lens that had been discontinued. And that gave me an idea where to start at, because when I was talking to my wife about what I wanted to do, she goes, I think there's already something like this out there. I said, well, why is it not being, talked about? And she's like, well, the doctors aren't talking about it because they aren't asking their patients lifestyle questions. They're just trying to get through, as a general thing, they're just trying to get through and do the eye exams and try to control what insurance is going to pay them, but they're not selling multiple pairs of glasses.
Right.
And that's something we deal with every day still today in the optical industry, trying to get doctors to talk about more lifestyle questions, because when you get into people's, what they do besides, just going to work every day, they need glasses for different things they do. And if you're on a computer all day, there's a computer lens. If you're playing golf, there's a golfing lens. If you need, shooting and hunting, we now know there's a hunting lens. If you're driving, there's a driving lens that helps out for different things. And fishing, of course, you need polarized lenses in fishing, and getting prescription polarized lenses. And, you can find out by actually talking to people. And that's what I kind of brought to the optical industry with all my years of experience in retail, was qualifying a customer to really, talk to them and find out what other needs they may have than just needing quote unquote glasses.
Yeah.
And that's what gave me the idea of running into so many different things with the hunting lens, because, there's, I don't know how much, well, I don't even want to remember. I probably do somewhere, but going through all the R&D of throwing away lenses that, yep, this ain't gonna work. Nope, this ain't gonna work. Yes, I like this, but no, I don't like this. And then, we threw away a lot trying to find the right combination of what we wanted to do or what we wanted to accomplish. And what we wanted to accomplish was, one, we knew that the base of being Trivex was superior to plastic or polycarbonate, hands down, because Trivex by itself is lighter and stronger than plastic or polycarbonate, and also allows 43% more light to pass through the lens than polycarbonate. Now,
okay, wow.
We knew the only other optics that are better than Trivex is glass.
Yeah. And
we didn't want to have glass anywhere around including my own, anywhere near around our eyes if something catastrophic happened, because glass, shards and just is a disaster for your eyes.
Yeah, that's not, that dog won't hunt.
And but believe it or not, I still see people wearing Costas every day when they go shooting, and and that's just, I like Costa. There's nothing wrong with that. Costa is a great brand. So is Maui Gems. There's a lot of great brands out there in the polarized industry, but those are fishing glasses, and that's how they're marketed. But people still use them today because they want the big C on their on their truck when they go hunting. That's just part of it.
Totally. But if you stand around any 3-gun match, rimfire match, anything where the steel's being shot, you're going to eventually end up wiping blood off your face from a frag.
Exactly. And when I went to Sherry and I said, this is where I'm wanting to go with this, I really think I've got something. And she goes, well, where the hell is our liability going to be at? I'm not taking a company we started back in 1977 and get screwed up for something you're just coming up with. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. I said, hell on, I'll get back with you. So about 2 days later, I got back with it. I said, I figured it out. We're going to do everything in OSHA safety frames, and all the lenses we're going to do at ANSI standard 2015.
Okay.
Because most of the safety lenses that are out there are only 2003, 2010.
Yep.
And we're going to take it all the way to 2015. And she says, well, get me the OSHA certificate and you can go from there. And about 6 months later, I got everything approved, going through lots of more trials and this working and not working and paying a lot of money to have a bunch of lenses come back to me that didn't pass and trying to figure out why and put other coatings together and other solutions together to finally get the certificate. And we moved forward at that point.
And that's what informed the original selection of frames, correct? Is the OSHA rating.
That's why we have the frames we have, because they're all Z87 plus 1 and Z87 plus 2 for prescriptions. And that's the difference than our frames are. And you should have saw the frames that were out when we first got started. We've come a long way on frames because, there's no such thing as a sexy safety frame. And my wife to this day still hates these frames as a whole. And the new Velocity that we just came out with was another frame style that finally came out that we worked with a manufacturer to get some that's listening to us to try to get some things like we want. And that's kind of where we're at now. And I got some, still have some frame manufacturers I'm working with up in the New York area that are, trying to design more and more stuff that is, quote unquote, getting more of a more photo friendly.
So your commitment though is to stay OSHA approved with all of your frames.
It is.
Okay.
And the reason being is it's about safety.
Yeah.
We're talking about safety. We're talking about protecting the only two eyes you're going to have, period. And, do we have some stuff out there? Well, you've got one that's not a safety frame, and we have the conversation. It's got the same properties. It's got the same thickness. It's got the same everything. But you got to remember, I can't put an ANSI rated frame in a non-safety frame. So conversation I had with you got the same thing. It just doesn't have the ANSI markings.
Correct.
It won't, based on what OSHA has put in front of us, it will not, provide the same protection. But conversation is it's the same thickness, it's the same everything. It should, it just don't have the same, ANSI ratings on it.
Yeah. So does that make it impossible to have a lens that has no, sorry, let me say this better. Does that make it impossible to create an OSHA rated lens that doesn't have any frame around like the bottom half, for example?
Not at all. Just one thing about it. There's not an interchangeable lens out there that is OSHA approved.
Okay. I got it.
Now saying that, we are working on some things now on a model that's going to roll out if everything still goes as planned in January of 2020. Yeah. So we've got some things in testing. We're still waiting to get some stuff back from the ratings, but there is an OSHA approved, rimless frame that we are working on.
Cool.
That's going to be a game changer for us to get into the shotgun world more, and also to get in a situation where we can deliver what you and all the other shooters are telling me, hey, what can we do to get nothing at the bottom? What can we do to get nothing, there? So we're working on that. That's going to be a whole different level of taking it to the next level for Hunters HD Gold, because it's one of those things that's going to be, we've still got to worry about the safety, but we're trying to listen very diligently to every, shooter we can to get the feedback. Because when I do demo days, I do it for two reasons. One is to go out there and use the lens. I know what they're going to like about it, but I want to hear more from the shooters that don't like it. Yes. And I tell them that because this is where I can take the brand in the future. Does it mean it's going to happen tomorrow? No. But if I get enough feedback on a certain area, just like we're talking about now with rimless, then guess what? The future is bright. We're going to have a rimless safety frame coming out. That's fantastic. If everything keeps going as planned. And when you talk about that, then you're talking about different shapes and different things. Let's make clear, it's not going to be just a one-piece frame. We talked about one-piece lens. We talked about that before, that's an injected molding process, and it's all, polycarbonate. There's a lot of things there that, we're limited to the blanks of the lens itself at 80 millimeters. Yep. So it's going to have to still be two separate lenses, but it's going to be something that is going to be, lighter and keep the same strength as well.
That's great. Well, let me dig into this a little bit, because this is like really interesting to me personally, and and I don't know if others will enjoy it, and that's not really why I do this. So really cool. So like I would say, arguably, well, first of all, there's a lot of great conversations, and I want to exclude a handful of things to begin with to make life really easy and fair for us to have a conversation. So let me say this anecdotally. I am standing at Arms and Arms, which is an awesome gun shop here in town. We sell lots of high-end equipment, lots of high-end guns. If you want 3-gun gear, you're probably coming, or USPSA gear, you're probably coming to us, right? And they'll, I can't tell you how many people are obsessing about the details between 2 or 3 $2,000 optics for their rifle. And then they tell me that, and I ask them what shooting glasses they're wearing, and they're spending about $45 over the counter. Yep. And I'm like, this doesn't matter. Get the cheapest thing possible. Because, if you're not going to look through a good lens. So we're excluding everything in the lower cost categories for the most part in this conversation, right? And I say that because, this is one thing about Hunter's HD Gold. This is not an inexpensive lens, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And so this is somebody who's looking for a very high-end, very tailored lens specifically for what they're up to. Now, you go into rimfire or steel challenge shooters, they're always living with a single focal point, with their eyes are directly through the glass, and they're making small adjustments, right? They're not having to calculate targets, 90 degrees to their left in order to see where that's happening before they break a shot and move, right?
Right.
They're certainly not dealing with what we're dealing with, where they're looking through the top of their eyes and the bottom of their eyes, depending on the angle up and down they're dealing with in long-range rifle shooting. So then we kind of get into what's out there in the, premium marketplace. And really, there's only a couple. And I would assume you hear a lot about Oakley in your world, right? Just because they...
Oh, of course. Yeah, they're the Oakleys, the Pilas, there's a lot of, the Ranger REs, there's a lot of nice stuff out there.
Yeah, and they make 2 lenses we specifically see a lot of in our world, which is the Flax, which is a 2-lens interchangeable model. And then the Tombstones, they have a couple of versions, the Wraith and whatever. And I have a set of the Tombstones that I use. Those are my primary. If I'm doing lots of shooting on multiple angles at different, targetry and all kinds of stuff, that's one of my go-to lenses because it's lightweight, wraps around the head, and I've got completely unobscured vision anywhere I might, angle the gun, short of shooting down through my feet, which doesn't happen very often.
I hope not.
Yeah, no. It has happened, but it doesn't happen very often. That's usually a result of some sort of catastrophic mistake on my part, where now the only way to engage the target is on my back through my legs. But that's it. It hasn't happened. It has. And I go to that lens for that very specific reason. So big terrain matches, lots of running, lots of open space. That's something I'm wearing. That's the only other shooting lens that I wear besides the HD Golds now. And so for me, that's the one thing about these glasses that and even with my Oakleys, which are perfect, that's the one time that I don't wear them. And that's just because I just don't have I think the Wraith and the Tombstone line has got arguably the most field of view available without obstruction on the marketplace. So, not sure where I'm going with this other than to say, how are you dealing with that? Because you're convincing 3-gunners slowly but surely. I'm starting to see these things show up. Obviously it's an objection you're dealing with. What is the conversation like around that?
Take them and try them.
Yeah.
Really, really take them and try them. Because I've had this conversation with some shooters. I won't mention their name, but because they do a lot of training and they're very specific in what they do. And I don't want to get involved in some detailed conversations.
Yeah.
When you try them and you use them and you put yourself in, and when I'll back up 20 seconds, I tell them to take them with them, walk the stages.
Yeah.
When they're walking, they got the 10 minutes to walk, take them with you and walk the stage. Because when I go to a lot of matches, especially 3-gun lately, they've all been championships. Nobody likes to change gear in the middle of a match.
Correct.
I get that. They're already there. They're there to win. They've been practicing. So take them and try them when you walk the stages. And that's my soft approach to saying, put them on, see where the contrast is. And when you walk the stages, walk and see exactly what's happening when you move your head with these lenses. Come to find out with the new velocity that we have, that we just came out with in January for USPSAers, gives a lot wider view than people imagine with a smaller lens.
Okay.
And it has a little bit more wrap on it, but people are finding out, you know, when they see me at the tent, they come put them on, they're like, well, I can see this, I can see that. Well, of course, you're not engaged in high heart rate, high situation. The timer's not gone off, and your focus is not where it needs to be, which is through your optics or your sights. When this happens, for lack of better vision, for lack of better words, tunnel vision and your direct focus has taken over.
Yep.
You don't notice anything but what you're looking at and what you're engaged.
100%. I call it alligator brain.
There is transition period where you have to cut your eyes and be ready for the next target, but it doesn't really affect that either on some of the frame styles we have.
Yeah, I got it.
There's some we have that are closed off, and that's, you know, it's not good. But I always tell people, you know, we have the discussion when I go to these matches, you know, they say, well, what's the difference? I would say, well, all the lenses are the exact same, so the only difference is fit and what we're looking for in a frame. They pick this up, and I'm like going, that's not going to work. Try this one. And I put them in, you know, I push towards the gauge, the aviator, for the 70s, you know, look, or either the velocity, because I know the wrap allows a lot more.
Yeah.
And you get it. I have fun with all these, you know, it doesn't bother me when people say, well, I look like an old, 70s, porn star. It doesn't bother me. They, it's not my fault they have a mustache.
That's right.
But we have a lot of fun with it. But truth be told, once we get past the vanity, which is not easy to do, I want people to focus on the lens. And when people try them and they go out and use them, they're like, they come back going, well, I didn't notice any of the sides. Well, I don't want to look at somebody and say, well, you're not going to notice that when you shoot, because I don't shoot myself. I just know based on what the eyeball does.
Yep.
I don't want to get in people's, I don't tell them what they're going to see or how they're going to see it. Go try it for themselves. And I guess getting back to the answer to your question specifically is just go demo it for yourself. Go try it. Does it work every time? No, but I get the feedback I need where I can take it to the next level. And when, like I said, what's going to happen, come January is going to be, a lot of people coming back around and saying, it's time for me to try it again. Yeah,
really cool. Well, that's so really good. So let's transition just a little bit. I mean, the one thing I've really noticed, because I did a little dive on like the overall, like, like I would for any company that solicited my business, the marketing firm, right, is just do a little dive in like where you are, where you're out there in the digital space and all that. And, you have a decent presence on several sites, but I mean, the main thing that you seem to be doing is you're out there every weekend at the match, putting the glasses in people's hands.
Yep.
Is that the primary strategy for the company?
It's one of those things where when I talked to Sherry about it, I said, I've got to go educate people on lenses and technology. You can't do that. You can, but nobody is going to just take the time to go to the benefits page of Hunter's HD Gold and study that. I mean, it's there. Everything's there. But to be able to actually talk to somebody about it and actually say, well, why is it doing this compared to this? And I get to talk about the technology to people and educate. When I go to these matches, I'm not, this sounds crazy. I've been in sales my whole life. I'm not there to just sell. I'm there to educate and build relationships.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. I've been doing, I have so many people walk up that are in sales saying, why didn't you ask for the order? I'm like going, they're not ready to buy yet. They're going to let, I can get, don't get me wrong. I can sell with a bet. I've been doing it all my life.
Yeah.
But if I go out there and I start selling and promoting and putting somebody in a position where they're going to go home and go, what the hell did I just buy?
Right.
Then you have buyer's remorse. Then that
for sure.
In the social media world that we live in today, that can kill your ratings real quick. You don't want that. And that's one reason when I do demo days, there truly is no pressure. My job is to educate, let people experience it. And even on the prescription side, I actually make your prescription before you buy it, and you get to demo it with your prescription as well. There's nobody ever heard of this before.
No.
And my wife goes, you've lost your mind. I've got doctors that don't pay their bills. I said, these shooters, myself being a shooter when I got started,
yep,
we're different. And we're not going to be known as that individual. We're not going to be known as that guy or that person that didn't pay for something. And especially in the shooting world, it's an amazingly huge shooting world, but it's a small world when it comes to somebody doing something they're not supposed to do.
It blows me away. It's one thing. I mean, obviously, you've gotten to know a lot of shooters now, and you've come to a conclusion that that many do. I mean, I'm like the only game in Minnesota that'll take a credit card for a match fee. And I don't ask people to sign, which is obviously a liability from a business standpoint.
Right.
Never even crossed my mind. I was like,
we don't do that either. It's just one of those things that, I always have people ask me all the time, especially I get a lot of emails and everybody goes, what's the warranty? I'm like going, well, what is a warranty?
Yes.
A warranty is nothing but a state of mind, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I've sold extended warranties to all the places I worked. I've sold warranties. Sure. I've sold people a state of mind. And the reason being that there's no actual warranty listed on the website is because warranties don't have to really be created until somebody takes advantage of something. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that, my philosophy. When somebody catches a frag or something happens, they contact me, I'm just going to replace the lens.
Yep.
No questions asked. If somebody sends me a pair of glasses that have had, we see lenses every day by our doctors that return stuff for warranty. Since we're the manufacturer, we are the warranty. We handle everything.
Yep.
So seeing lenses come every day, I can tell when a lens has been abused. Now, what I mean by abused is leaving it just on the dash of your car in extreme heat, cleaning it, and causing scratches because of cleaning. We see everything, and that people try to put by people a lot smarter than me in the lab here. We know how to identify things. So when I talk to people about, cleaning, they come with cleaning instructions. They come with Z Clear, which is a clean air and anti-fogging agent. We try to do anti-fogging in house. I have all the tools to do it in house, but it was another heating and cooling process, and it caused us to fail ANSI standards. So we had to find an outside source, and I met up with Chris Ward, who owns Z Clear, and that's why we package everything of Hunter's HD Gold with Z Clear. There's specific things we put in place with every part of the process to be able to try to overcome the objections before they become objections. And I've had people that have brought me lenses before saying, I've got this stuff in here, I can't get it off the lens. I'm like going, yeah, this is where pretty much you cleaned your lenses with your jersey or your shirt, which is the worst thing to do because every bit of dust and dirt that's on that jersey is going to get in there. And that's what scratches lenses.
Yep.
It's when you're using that. And I'll talk to them. I say, well, take them back, going to still replace them for you because I'm not here to sell another pair of lenses every time somebody has a problem. Sure. I'm here to, build customers for life. So I tell them, well, next time before you clean your lenses, take whatever liquid you have, be it water, Kool-Aid, Gatorade, pour it on the lenses because there's a hydrophobic top coat that's not going to allow anything to stick to them. Then clean them with the stuff that we provided. And then, here's a set of lenses that have been replaced, no charge. This happens again, I'm going to charge you $2,000 because it's just because we've had it's all a part of training. And that's the way it happens. So I have fun, and I'm not just dealing with if somebody has a problem, it's just not a customer. It's a person I've met. It's a person I've come to know. Yeah. And we have a real life conversation just like we just had. It's just like this is how you can overcome this in the future. Don't do that.
Yeah. Well, it's so clear because I see you out there, and there's always a line of people to come talk to you and check them out and figure it out. And part of that is I also have been, I don't know if you're still doing this, but at least the last season you were doing like a custom set of glasses for each event.
Yes, I still do that.
Okay, cool.
Getting ready to, not sure this podcast is going to be published, but I'll be somewhere else this weekend with another custom pair everywhere I go.
That's super cool.
That's part of the fun because it does two things. One, it brings people to the tent to see what I've got because I don't ever release any pictures of it till the day of. So people want to come see what I put together. And I gather their email address for any kind of, future marketings or any new product releases. So it's a good way to capture that on the business side.
Yep.
I always have people all the time asking me, they email me all the time. I said, I don't have time to email you.
Yeah.
So
totally.
You may get an email once or twice a year about product, a new product update or something that's happening in the Hunters HD Gold world. But those are mine to keep, and I'm not going to sell them to anybody. So I've had people ask me in the industry, hey, can I get, have some of your email addresses for this and this? I'm like, no, I can't do that.
No.
Just like when I became part of the USPSA, I talked to them and I said, do y'all have an emails out there that I can market to? And it's actually in their bylaws. The answer is no, which is fine. So I still had to create a way to, build my own list. And my list, I feel in some cases is better than their list because if they're not at the award ceremony, the only way I'm going to contact them and let them know is through email because I'm not collecting phone numbers or anything else. So they're inclined to give me their correct email address. So when I do have time to send out an email about a product release or what we're doing on YouTube or whatever we're doing, which has happened, I don't think, but once this year when I first had my contest at the beginning of the year that lasted out the entire year, they actually emailed everybody. And when I sent out that email, I had a pretty high, I think my open rate was like 80-something%. So that's pretty high based on talking to other people that are only getting 20 or 30% of their open rate.
Yeah,
so
no kidding.
When I email somebody, it's like, hey, it's not very often. And, we all get those emails 2 or 3 times a day from the same company. And they just become like, I just need to go away. I don't need to see everything when you roll out something.
That's a remarkable number. Right? That's like, when we were marketing, my mom, my family's been in residential real estate for a very, very long time. And she was very early on in the email marketing. And when we were sending out emails, like 2005 to 10, somewhere in there, 70 to 90% open rate was like pretty awesome. Right. But now 70 to 90% is like 3X.
But think about it. Like I told you, when I go meet all these people, what am I doing? I'm making friends. I'm building relationships. Yeah. How many times do you open an email from your friend?
Yeah.
It's all about building that relationship.
Well, the other thing too is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but like, if you went to American Express and you asked them for email addresses that were as fine-tuned as humanly possible to get like the right client, right? You'd pay like $5 to $10 per email address.
Wow.
And that's nothing compared to how refined they are when they opt in directly to your company, right? So when I tell my clients, for example, is like on your website, wherever you're at, consider that every time someone gives you an email address, it's like they handed you a $5 bill. And that's on the bottom of the value of it, right?
Right.
And you start looking at these assets. We've got companies that have 10, 12,000 email addresses. That's a $50,000 or $60,000 minimum asset that people have built up over time. Look, you're not in a position where tomorrow someone's going to come along and say you can't market anymore on Facebook because you're you're in the protective. Oh, really?
Yeah. Added some of the tags I've done. I've had some stuff taken down before of just people shooting competitively based on maybe a hashtag that I don't know what it was, but they said it was something I was promoting firearms or something. I'm like going. Yeah, and I actually challenged it. I actually challenged it one time when I tried to boost a post that was nothing but the. It was a YouTube page. When I do now, I go around and when I'm doing everything, when everybody's shooting, I'm just sitting in a tent.
Yeah.
So I had chosen to go out there and get videos of people shooting and capture, like to use your words that I heard you use a year ago, their Disney World moment.
Yeah.
And I took that from you, but I go capture. I take videos of people, and at the end of that day, I go put it on the YouTube page. They're free. I'm not making money off YouTube. They're there for them to download themselves.
Yep.
It's a way, to do, promote that. But when I promoted it one time on the Hunters HD Gold YouTube page, they shot it down, and based on my promoting ammunition and stuff like that, it was weird.
Yeah.
So I counteracted and came back and said, I'm promoting safety prescription. I'm promoting safety protective eyewear, just like I listed out 8 other companies that were doing the same thing. And it came back and finally, I won. I won So
Yep.
I've had my problems too, where I've been, had the same problems even with eyewear. But when I'm very careful on what my hashtags are now to know that I can't put certain hashtags on there when I want to boost something. But it's one of those things that I'm waiting for the day, and I'm always out there looking for something that we're not being shadow banned. We're not being, I can go type in, looking for certain companies out there, and I actually have to type in the company exactly right, or it doesn't even pull up anymore.
No.
And you used to get type A, and there's Ag Lamination and all these other companies, Akai, everybody's right there. Now it's like you type A, and it's like, nope, that's next letter. Nope. You have to type them specifically what they are to get them to pull up now.
Yeah.
Is that a coincidence, or is that the way they're doing it now? I guarantee you that's what they're wanting to happen.
It could be. So my philosophy on all this stuff is I don't get romantic about any of it. Look, the fact is if I had a new company tomorrow that sold guns and I could get away with 2 months of Facebook advertising before they shut me down, I'd do it in a second.
Right.
It was earlier this year, actually, that for whatever reason, because we run tests pretty much monthly on Google, on Facebook, and places like that, where I've got a couple $100 just kind of rolling all the time to see if I can get ads through. And Google, all of a sudden, just all my gun ads got through. So we just quintupled down on that for 3 or 4 months, and then all of a sudden we started getting disapproved. Fine, whatever. I made like a few $100,000 in the process. I'm not for the companies that I just don't get romantic about it, because the truth is that's just where we're at, what we're dealing with. And still today, Facebook is one of the great arbitrages for your dollar in advertising. And
it is.
The one thing I'll tell you though is you can get an advocate at Facebook. So if you've got a couple ads that have been knocked down, you can apply for an advocate. And once you have an advocate, if you're a proven product, they go through and do all the research, and you guys aren't selling anything. What you want to make sure is there's no, like right now, if I go to your page at Hunters HD Gold, and I go to your, was it your testimonials? Where, you've got your Gold Team partners, and I can link right to Akai, for example, and he sells guns.
Yep.
So what you might want to do there is if you were to, it's like 1 degree of separation you got to put in place, right? So you could create a page for your website for each of where you give it so the click through goes for Akai goes to a page on your site that has what you think of, stuff about Akai. And then from there, they can click over and go to your, to their page.
Instead of having it just directly to it.
Correct. And if you do that and the advocate clears all that, then you probably will be okay, and you can run ads all day long, and you can still do what you want to do, which is promote these companies, right? And so, and you get that in place. There's some like Kydex holster companies. Technically, holsters are not banned, on Facebook, but try to get an ad out on a holster, it's like freaking impossible. So you got to go through the process and get an advocate and go through the whole thing. And the problem is most holster companies spend a lot of time promoting guns, and they don't realize they're doing it. And all they have to do is just do a little cleanup and get their house in order. Now, look, I don't want it to be that way.
Right.
But who gives a damn what I want?
No.
My job is to make money for my clients, right?
Exactly.
So and I just don't get too romantic about it. And the thing is if, my competition out there is going to be upset about it all day long and just not pay for advertising on Facebook, they're welcome to do that. But the truth is I'm going to win.
Right.
At the bottom line. And so I just don't. So are they shadow banning? Probably. Are they making life more difficult for us? Probably. But I don't spend any time thinking about it.
Right.
And do I want to give my money to a company like that? No. But the truth is most of the companies I work for are well south of $10 million a year. So even if you had a $10 million company, your ad budget being 1% is going to be, that's $100,000. Right? If your ad budget's 3%, it's $300,000. Tell me where you can buy that kind of exposure for $300,000, and I'll do it. It's certainly not the back page of USPSA Front Sight magazine.
That's correct.
So that's where I start to look, and I'm like, well, in the big cost benefit analysis of marketing, I just bet ponies. And I'll bet whatever pony's going to win to the best of my ability. If I have an option between a winning pony and another winning pony that doesn't, put us in third gear all the time, then I'm gonna pay for the one that's open throttle, right? But at the same time, they don't exist.
Right.
So it's interesting. Okay, so look, we covered a lot of stuff, and I got a couple things I just got to ask you, because one thing we do a lot on this show is we talk about how we get our business done. And you were traveling like basically every weekend, 9 months of the year, from what I can tell. What's your key? Like, what are your go-to things to, like, you know, keep your life in order, keep your business in order? Any tips or tricks you got? Hacks, we like to call them.
It is to, one, stay real with yourself.
Really good.
And that, what I mean by that is not just with business, but with home and everything else. I mean, and with life. Sherry is very, very supportive in everything I'm doing. I usually find myself home every Monday, Tuesday for sure. A lot of times on Wednesday, and then usually Thursday's my travel days, or, you know, so on some matches, Friday's my travel day, because I like to get there a day early for the ROs when they're shooting.
Yep.
But the consistency of being home and being real, you know, I have a 17-year-old son who's, you know, getting ready to start his senior year. He's in the marching band and everything else. And my schedule is what I mean by I keep my schedule real.
Yeah.
I know exactly I'm only going to miss 4 events that Zach has in marching this year.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough that a lot of matches in the fall are going to be held here in Alabama at the CMP.
Cool.
That's going to keep me home on Friday nights. But I've already had the discussion with my son. These are the 4 matches I'm going to miss. So the communication with everybody in my life is very real.
Yeah.
I'm, you know, trying to, you know, that's my biggest secret, is being real with myself and what I can do. I enjoy traveling to my shooting family, we'll call it.
Cool.
Because that's everywhere I go, I'm seeing some people, at least 1 or 2 people I may have met in another match, but then I'm getting introduced to so many more people, and being able to, you know, have that relationship and the dinners and the time outside of the range with new people to learn about.
Yeah.
And, you know, then being back, you know, when we get through eating, being back at the hotel every night, you know, at, you know, 8 or 9 o'clock, to be able to relax and talk to my wife and just, you know, be there even though I'm away, you know, and, you know, have discussions with what's going on at the lab, what's going on with, you know, my other business partners with hunting camp, being available and being real. And, it seems like, you know, every night when I get home, I leave the lab around 6 o'clock every day, and I go home, and that's when I usually catch up on my Instagram, social media between the hours of 6 and 9 at night. I'm answering my phone at all hours of the night. I've got myself where, you know, I made being an iPhone, you know, at 11 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning, it shuts down.
Yes.
I'm not disturbed. And I've had phone calls come in previous times where, you know, that, you know, people in other countries now are knowing about Hunter's HD Gold.
Yeah.
So it's a neat thing. I had Keita Boosie, as a matter of fact, just, you know, opened up Australia for me,
Yep.
you know, a couple of weeks ago when she was there. And now I got guys there in Australia wanting to sell it. And before then she was in Estonia and South Africa, and they're picking up the brand. So
she is all over everywhere. That one.
It's wonderful because I'm making, you know, friendships with so many different people in different environments that are helping me, you know, control the brand in certain areas that I can't be at. Excuse me. And that's my biggest thing. Yesterday, it was funny. You asked about, you know, how do you balance all that? Yesterday, I was up in North Carolina, and the plan, my wife had gone to Texas because we had one of her ex-husband had passed away, and that's who invited me, you know, to come be a part of the company. He had a lot of health problems over the past 7 years that got me involved in more in optical. That's a whole nother podcast. But so, and she says, well, I'm taking off Sunday. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay here all day Saturday and relax and not do anything. And my match is going to be over around 4 o'clock Saturday. And I was going to, you know, just go back to my mom and dad's house, who live in Charlotte right now, and spend some time with them. and we were just going to, drive back Sunday at the same time, be on the road together, but driving back at the same time. And she sent me a message, Saturday afternoon. It says, I'm bored. I'm coming back Saturday. And I said, well, I'll leave after the match. And I got home at 10:30 Saturday night. She got in at 12:30 in the morning, Sunday a.m. And all I did yesterday, because we both had a lot of stuff going on this past week with the death of Danny, our friend, and we didn't do anything yesterday. Yesterday, I think, was the first day this year I know that I didn't touch my phone for a full 24 hours.
Yeah.
Now, I made a conscious decision to do that.
Yep.
And I also got to work this morning at 6 a.m. and was a day behind, but because a lot of people were emailing and sending messages and everything else, but I got through it, and I made time today to do what we got to do. I'm caught up now. So, I just double time my work on Monday, and I thought to myself, okay, do I need to give myself more of that? And, when I tell you I didn't have my phone, I didn't look at it. It stayed back in the bedroom. I turned the silencer down, took off my iWatch. I was totally disconnected, watching TV and having a discussion with her for a full day. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, is this possible to do more?
Yes.
And, I discussed it with Sherry, and she said, she asked me, she called me this morning, did you miss anything yesterday that put the company in jeopardy? And I said, nope. Not at all. And she said, well, maybe you need to work more towards that at some point, where we're at. Because she knows I enjoy staying busy. Coming up in the retail management world, I'm used to working all the time. And when I go to the weekends and I work every weekend, being outdoors at a gun range, my office doesn't suck at all. So it's a situation where I'm used to working the hours. I'm used to being there. But yesterday was the first day I disconnected for a full 24 hours. And it was a kind of, my anxiety this morning was high. When I woke up at 5:30 this morning, I woke up out of bed like I'd been, like there was somebody in the house. My heart rate was up, and I'm thinking about all the things I had to do. I looked at my phone and I saw 67 emails. Yep. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a long day. But true enough, it wasn't, and it's not.
Well, consider that vanity shows up not unlike in sunglasses in how important we think we are, and it makes it really difficult to disconnect when our bodies, our brains, our souls, and what you ultimately sell is relationships.
Yep.
I just got that so much from what you're just talking about. Is like you prioritize that so high, whether that's with your wife and your kid or a business partner, a person. That's just what you're up to in life.
That's my golden answer right there.
Yeah, really good. It's just but like, consider there might be a little vanity behind being available 100% of the time. And, right. And so if we look, I am my girlfriend's standing right over there, and she'd probably tell you that, I've just recently learned in the last year that you can just shut it down.
Right.
And I'm committed to, and I'm poor at, but committed to Sunday, I just am not engaged.
Right.
That's it. That's a day off. It's the only day she has off a week. And so we just try to have that be the day. And 6 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day, it's plenty.
Yep.
I also got last year that if it was taking me 12 hours a day to run my business, I wasn't as clever as I thought I was.
Well, there's some of that as well. And I have a staff here. You got to keep in mind, there's 17 people behind the scenes of 100 HD Gold that are making these lenses every day. That is the customer service where if somebody has a prescription order, they're dealing with a lot of these phone calls that I used to deal with. And there's a reason why we've been in business, 41 years making eyeglasses, because of relationships we built with independent ophthalmologists and optometrists. And now my staff are building those relationships with a lot of shooters. I got a lot of shooters every day that come talk to me. I love Paula. I love Chris. You got a great team there that are handling a lot of things, and they're doing a lot of things when I'm gone so much. So,
well, it doesn't surprise me you prioritize people that could build relationships. It doesn't surprise me.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And they're the ones that are, when somebody sends something in and they don't say they want single vision, bifocals, or progressive lenses. So my staffs are the ones making those phone calls back to the customers and then making those relationships on top of what I've already done. So it's not just me anymore, because in 2018, it was me.
Yeah, I got it.
I was on every single phone call for every single thing I'm doing. And one thing I learned through management for so many years is at some point you have to delegate and you have to allow somebody else to fail so they can grow.
Correct.
And that's what I've done with Paula and Chris. And they're like me. They may make a mistake, but they don't like making it but once.
Yeah, I got it.
They learn from it, and they're smart enough to move forward and overcome anything that they're handled now. And, we're doing 250 to 300, jobs a day.
Jeez.
And we got a major, it's a major manufacturing process that's going on here. And for me to walk in and say, okay, here's even more stuff I'm going to throw on top of it with even more people to talk to, they've adapted just as well as I have to make it work.
That's
and
fantastic.
they understand the importance of this, because we're not just making Hunter's HD Gold for customers now. We're having people like yourself that wear the lens, but like, hey, can you make me this as well?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, sure can. I'm a lab. I make anything.
Yeah.
So there's their regular prescriptions as well.
Really
to be able
cool.
to make their other glasses, and we're building a relationship to continue that process for stuff even far past Hunter's HD Gold.
Really cool. Well, on that note, I have learned so much. Thank you so much, Brian, for doing this. And for those of you who haven't had a chance, check out Hunter's HD Gold. You can probably find Brian at your match. It's pretty likely. If not, if you're here in Minnesota, come find me, come find Dustin Sanchez, or just go to their site and find a shooter that you know in your neighborhood and go check out their glasses. And man, it's really good. I can't wait to see you on the next one, brother.
Man, I will see you soon. I'll be here anytime you need me, brother. I appreciate it.
All right. And now, as always, we close with some metal.